Hey guys, thanks for joining me for this 76th episode in Season 2 of Good Questions with Cameron Dole. Special guests on this episode include author Christina Hunger. She's got a new book, How Stella Learned to Talk, the groundbreaking story of the world's first talking dog. We'll also visit with actor Holt McCallany. He's got a new thriller in theaters today with Jason Statham, The Wrath of Man. We'll also visit with actor Jeff Fahey about his new movie with Mina Suvari called Locked In. And we'll visit with pastor and author Louie Giglio about his new book, Don't Give the Enemy a Seat at Your Table. Of course, if you would, please take the time to subscribe, comment, leave some feedback, check out the shop, and share with your friends. We would like to say thanks to our friends at Smiley's Breezy Vapes for helping sponsor today's podcast. Stop in and see them at 313 Falcon Road. They've got a great selection of red basket specials, plus the largest selection of disposable flavors in Southwest Oklahoma. If you have any questions, you can always call or text 580-471-VAPE. Well, if you've ever mowed down a Chipotle burrito, looked down at your stomach and said, "Am I 6 months pregnant?" Now there's a social media trend for that. A 24-year-old woman named Clara Gulam from Nashville, Tennessee, started posting selfies on TikTok that show her stomach before she eats a big meal, and then one that shows her after. And now other people are getting in on the trend and posting their before and after photos. Clara says she's gotten a ton of great feedback from people who are insecure about their bloating after eating. And now, this is helping them realize it's totally normal. This is something maybe for your weekend. I got a new book to talk about, How Stella Learned to Talk, the groundbreaking story of the world's first talking dog. We've got Christina Hunger on the line with us. And first off, Christina, thank you so much for taking the time.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Now, when did you know that Stella had a gift that you could train her to talk? Was it just by chance, or was it something that you were really working on in the beginning, if you will?
So when I brought Stella home, she was a little puppy, and within days, like 2 days after I brought her home, I just realized how much communication she was already showing. She was bursting with communication. She was using her eye contact to direct me towards things. She was pawing at her water dish if it was empty. She was whining. She was barking. And I just thought of my job as a speech therapist and saw all of these similarities between how she was already communicating and what toddlers communicate right before they start using words.
And for you, how hard is the teaching process? You talked about the pawing. I mean, dogs do plenty of pawing. How easy or difficult was it to get the commands taught to them as well?
So for me, since I have this background as a speech therapist, it was pretty intuitive for me teaching Stella these words. And I took what I knew as how to teach children words and applied it to Stella. And it's been this kind of grand experiment over the past few years. And so I think what I've found of what works and what doesn't work will be really helpful for anyone who wants to go forward and teach their own dogs. But it was really just about being really repetitive with the language I was using with Stella, narrating what she was doing, and showing her how the buttons would say the words that she was hearing. So that's how she could say words as well.
You deal with training of an animal, a dog, puppy. How early, if somebody wants to teach this process, how early do you want to start working with your pet?
Honestly, as soon as you want. And I think, so in the past year and a half after this story has been kind of out there, there's been thousands of dog owners who have started teaching their own dogs of all ages. I've seen people have success with their older dogs. I've seen people start from puppyhood like I did with Stella. So there's not one right answer. I think as long as you have the motivation and some background knowledge, some information to help you, you can go ahead and get started.
And Christina, I mentioned we have several dogs. Some of them are pawers, some of them are mouthers. I mean, does that make it a little more difficult when they conversate with their mouth as opposed to with their paws?
I'm not sure. I haven't seen that be an issue for others who are teaching their dogs, but I have seen some dogs actually, instead of using their paw to push buttons, use their nose. So it doesn't even have to just be a paw. It can be however the dog is most comfortable activating those buttons. So, maybe in that case, they might use their nose instead of their paw. That would be really interesting to see.
Now, the book, How Stella Learned to Talk, for you, when did the process of the book become a possibility?
I pretty much spent all of 2020 working on this. So at the end of 2019, this story kind of gained some national attention of what I was doing. And these opportunities opened up for what I wanted to do next. And it was so important for me to be able to have the space to share the full story of how I got this idea, the background of speech therapy and language development, and all the connections I was drawing between my work and what Stella was doing. And then also have the space to teach others how they can teach their own dogs too. So a book seemed like the perfect way to accomplish all of this. And I spent most of last year working on it.
Now, what is maybe the biggest misconception about teaching your dog to talk or communicate?
I think the biggest misconception is that it replaces other forms of dogs' language and dogs' communication. But that's not true at all. It's just adding one more tool for dogs to express themselves. Stella still barks, she still whines, she still uses her body language, just like all dogs do. But now she just has another tool to express herself and a way to say the words that she's hearing and understanding every day.
Now, Christina, if folks want to find out more information about the book and also everything you've got going social media wise, what's the best place to keep up with everything?
Yeah, you can check out my website, hungerforwords.com, HUNGERFOR words.com. It has tons of information about our story. There's videos of Stella. You can go to our social channels, read more information about the book, and learn about this incredible journey.
That's good stuff. Again, the book, How Stella Learned to Talk, the groundbreaking story of the world's first talking dog. Christina Hunger, it's been great to visit with you this morning. I hope you have a great weekend, and hopefully we can catch up again real soon.
Thank you so much.
Maybe you're planning to talk to your mom on Sunday, and apparently, for about 1.5% of you, that's the only time you'll talk to her this year. Now, just in time for Mother's Day, a new survey asked people how often they call or text their mom. And of the people whose moms are still with us, the most common answers are daily or a few times a week. Both of those got 30% of the vote. 7.5% of people talk to their moms monthly, 1.5% talk to their mom twice a year, 1.5% once a year, and 7.5% say less than once a year or never. So when you call your mom, what do you call your mom? The survey found the most common answer is by far mom at 48.5%. 12% of adults still use mommy, 10% use mother, 10% use mama, and 7% say ma. And then there are 3% of disrespectful punks who call their mom by their first name. Got a brand new movie in theaters, The Wrath of Man, a film by Guy Ritchie, and we've got Holt McCallany on the line with us this morning. And Holt, first off, thank you so much for taking the time.
No problem. It's actually McCallany, Cameron, but don't worry about it because it's a tough name. A lot of people don't get it right the first time.
There you go. Now, The Wrath of Man, if Holt, if folks haven't seen the previews or the trailers, have been hiding under a rock, tell our listeners a little bit about the new film available today.
So Wrath of Man is an action thriller that stars Jason Statham, and it's the new film from Guy Ritchie. And for your listeners who may not be familiar with Guy Ritchie's work, Guy Ritchie gave us a film last year called The Gentleman that starred Matthew McConaughey and Hugh Grant and Colin Farrell. Guy Ritchie also directed a wonderful film called Snatch with Brad Pitt His first film was a film that also starred Jason Statham called Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, which is considered one of the great British sort of gangster films of its era. And he's just a really exciting director who's kind of known for terrific action sequences and colorful characters and clever dialogue. And this film has all the elements that we've come to expect from a Guy Ritchie movie. And it stars one of the biggest movie stars in the world, Jason Statham.
Now, what's it like for you, Holt, now this time around with the promotion of a film? Obviously different than any other thing we've seen. How do you prepare for tonight's movie release night?
Well, look, it's really gratifying for me, Cameron, because, Bullet, my character, is in a really important role in the film. The film is based on a French movie called Le Convoyeur that starred Albert Dupontel and Jean Dujardin. And your listeners may remember Jean Dujardin because he won the Academy Award for Best Actor a few years ago for a film called The Artist. Mm-hmm. And I'm in the Jean Dujardin part, and Jason Statham is in the Albert Dupontel part. So I've got a really, important role in the movie. And look, we have wonderful actors in the supporting roles. We've got Scott Eastwood and Josh Hartnett, Jeffrey Donovan, really experienced veteran guys. And so for me, to be in such good company, it was really an honor.
For the movie release today, can you talk to what the sets look like today, Holt, as opposed to what you've had to deal with before in pre-pandemic times, if you will?
Right. Okay. Well, so look, we filmed this movie in England in the fall of 2019. So it was just before the pandemic. So we didn't have any of the COVID protocols to deal with on Wrath of Man. Since that time, I have made a number of films, where we do have very stringent COVID protocols, including, almost daily testing. Everybody has to wear masks, except the actors when we're actually rolling. Now, I'm shooting a television show in Chicago, and I've been double vaccinated, but even given that, we're still, exercising extreme precaution. It's not easy because the filmmaking process doesn't really lend itself to social distancing, very easily. But look, there's a tremendous demand out there for filmed entertainment. So we've found a way, to continue to make product. But it hasn't been without its challenges. There's no question about it.
And as things are starting to open up a bit, Holt, and folks are just dying to get out to the theaters as well, this is a great film for folks as they're wanting to get back out there as well for the theater experience of the thriller as well.
I think that's absolutely right. A lot of people haven't been to the cinema in a long time because of the pandemic. So if and now this film is going to be in theaters, and I think it's a great film to go back to the theater to see because it's a real edge of your seat kind of a thriller. It's got great action sequences. It's got a story. It's fast paced. It's energetic. It just keeps moving. It's got terrific characters and an interesting story with a lot of twists and turns. So if you haven't been to the theater for a long time, go this weekend and check out Wrath of Man.
That's right. Wrath of Man in theaters today. And Holt McCallany, did I get it right that time?
You got it right. And listen, Cameron, before you go, I've got a very good friend in Oklahoma City named Courtney Drum. So, Courtney, I know you're listening. This is a shout-out to you. You got it, buddy. Well, it was a pleasure to be with you, my friend. I really appreciate the support.
Again, thanks to our friends at Smiley's Breezy Vapes, 313 Falcon Road in Altus for helping sponsor today's podcast. Be sure if you have any questions, you can always call or text at 580-471-VAPE. That's 580-471-8273. They've got a great selection of new hardware, plus the largest selection of disposable flavors in Southwest Oklahoma. Now be honest, are you more excited about seeing your mom on Sunday or jamming some sausage in your mouth? Well, if you took that to a deviant place, that's on you. I mean, literally. A new study looked at Google searches to figure out what Mother's Day brunch food is the most popular in every state. Now, some kind of breakfast meat was number 1 in 21 states, sausage in 13, bacon in 8. Pancakes, French toast, or waffles were number 1 in 10 states, and cinnamon rolls and omelets both won 4 states. Now, there are 5 states where some type of booze is what people are looking forward to the most for Mother's Day brunch. Bloody Marys won 4 states, and mimosas won 1. It was Montana, which I had no idea was a mimosa state. And finally, New York clearly has the least exciting answer. The brunch food people are looking forward to the most in New York is oatmeal. Got a brand new movie available in select theaters and on-demand download as well. Today, Locked In, and from that we've got actor Jeff Fahey on the line with us. And Jeff, always great to visit with you, sir.
Oh, thank you, Cameron. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Now, Jeff, tell us a little bit about the movie Locked In and how different release day is this time around as opposed to so many works you've had before.
Well, Locked In, fascinating little fast-paced, driving, self-contained, a bit claustrophobic because it takes place, all takes place, the story happens in a storage facility, but it's a genre, thriller, action, character-driven piece that I'm quite sure the audience is really going to dig because it has a wonderful group of actors, an ensemble of headed off by Amina Savari, and Jasper Polish, wonderful actress, plays her daughter, and then you got these other great character actors who've been around for a long time. You'll recognize them all, wonderful actors, Costas Mandylor, Bruno Bashir, and Manny Perez, and myself. And so a couple of us are, without giving away the story, a diamond heist goes wrong, and the wrong people end up in the storage at the innocent people, Mina and her daughter, end up in a storage facility with the wrong people. They need to stay alive, and we need to find our diamonds. How's that?
Sounds exciting. And Jeff, was this filmed before or during COVID times?
Actually, Cameron, it was filmed just before. We filmed it in a little town outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Not a little town, but a city outside of Pittsburgh. And we did it in December of 19, which, if you remember your dates, I mean, literally months before everything started to lock down. But the fascinating thing is, the films, the little films that are the independent films, and I say little films because what's been filmed in this last year, and I've worked on a number of them in different parts of the world, but they've had to be small cast, small crew, self-contained stories that happened all under the COVID bubble of these productions. So the filmmakers, the writers and directors and producers have been making these films that are very similar to Locked In, because they take place in pretty much in one location with a small group of actors. But one would think that this actually was made during the COVID time and the restrictions, but it actually, in fact, was made just before. And I have to say, I think Carlos Gutierrez did an incredible job writing and directing this, because he's got it. As I said, it all takes place in a storage facility, so there's only so much you can do. All the hallways, everything looks the same. So it's all the angles, it's the lighting, it's the pacing, it's the music, it's how he pushes this story forward. And I think, as you can see from the trailer, there's an intense sort of genre thriller there that can hold the audience. And thank God we have streaming and all the different platforms for people to see today, where they wouldn't necessarily, or they may very well see a film like this in the theater, but it'd be hard pressed to compete with the big studio films. So it's a blessing in a certain way to have the possibilities and these platforms with streaming to see a film like Locked In, which will be. Are we live or are we tape?
This is tape. This is for tomorrow.
Yeah, so it's tomorrow. So which will be coming out everywhere today.
Now, Jeff, as a result of everybody having to kind of change the way they do things, do you think that the world of theater and movies in the coming years, we're going to see some major differences because of the way people are having to change things up?
Well, I think to what I was saying before, I think what it's going to do is this, because of the way the world has been, and especially how it's affected the industry, and people have had to make smaller, self-contained films. It's done a number of things. It's brought out the creative writing in a lot of these people to accommodate the self-contained small cast, which is a smaller budget, less special effects, more character-driven stories. So it's brought a lot of that back in, which we had, years ago, that before all the big special effects and computer graphics, all your stories were character-driven. So I think it's brought a lot of that back. It hasn't replaced, but it's brought it back in. And also I think it's given a lot of these unknown filmmakers, writers, directors, and producers who are doing these smaller films that are getting the exposure on streaming that go to millions and millions of people that otherwise wouldn't have seen it. Because you look at a film coming out on streaming can be seen by 10, 20 million households right out of the gate within the first month. And if you looked at and compared those numbers to the theater, it would be a blockbuster. So having said that, what happens is it gives those creatives, the writers, directors, and actors also, it gives them exposure and the opportunity for bigger chances, or certainly ongoing chances. So it is a blessing in that way for a lot of people who wouldn't stand a chance against the big studio blockbusters.
That's right. And again, Locked In, available in select theaters and on demand today. And Jeff, always want to make sure not only and let folks know where to find the film, but also everything you've got going on social media wise as well.
Well, they may find this hard to believe, but I'm one of those cats. I don't have any social media. So whatever's out there is created by other people. But my manager, Jeff Goldberg, he has social media, and he's always putting the films and latest projects out there that I've been working on. But also IMDb, they can always go to that to find out things. But aside from Locked In coming out, I'll be in the West End in the fall doing a new play. Well, not a new play, a play called Orphans from an American playwright, Lyle Kessler. But I guess they can go to Jeff Goldberg.
That's awesome.
It's interesting. I haven't had to answer that question very often because I just stay away from social media. I think it's wonderful for all the positives, but I'll just let the other people run with that.
There you go. Well, Jeff, I truly appreciate your time again, sir. Looking forward to the film. Going to check it out this weekend, and hopefully, brother, we can catch up again real soon.
All right, Carmen. It was my pleasure, and thank you for all your time and your generous words.
Now, I'm not sure that I'd walk around saying Mother's Day isn't a real holiday, but clearly some people don't have that issue. A new survey asked people if they think that Mother's Day is a real special occasion or just one we celebrate because of, quote, pressure from commercial entities. Now, 60% of people say it's real, and 30% say it's just something that pushed hard to get us to spend money. Now, if you're in that 30%, maybe don't mention that to your mom on Sunday. Like I mentioned before we came on the air, been a fan of his work all the way back since the Indescribable video. We've got a new book to talk about with Pastor Louie Giglio. It's Don't Give the Enemy a Seat at Your Table. It's time to win the battle of your mind. And first off, Pastor Louie, great to visit with you.
Great to visit with you, and I love just that thought of going all the way back to Indescribable and to the golf ball and to the bigness of God. Those were some amazing days, and wow, I'm still blown away.
And Louie, for the new book, Don't Give the Enemy a Seat at Your Table, when did this book start the preparation for you?
Yeah, about 6 years ago, maybe 7. I was going through a really hard season. We all do. And this one was a few months of just frustration, some relationship tensions. And, you know, at the end of it, something had happened that I wanted to commiserate with someone about. You know, you go through these things and then 6 months later, whatever, a phone call happens or you see something and you're like, oh, see there, I told you. And you just want some commiseration. So I had a buddy who'd walked through it all with me, and I just sent the longest text saying, can you believe this happened? I just heard this today. This is unbelievable. These things usually work out if you just give them time. And I'm in the older demographic age-wise, so it took me a minute to compose that text. It was pretty lengthy. And I just stood there. I'll never forget it, at the top of my driveway, staring at the phone because I was waiting for commensurate response. I wanted a big, long reply. No emojis. And I got this short little text back, and I thought, surely they hit send too fast. And I waited a moment, and I realized, nope, that's it. So I looked down, focused on the 9 words, and they said, don't give the enemy a seat at your table. And I was like, whoa. You know how sometimes like a sentence can just cut through all the clutter? And I realized in that moment that I wasn't just having negative thoughts. I wasn't just stressed for the last few months. I wasn't just laying awake at night for no reason. I had let my adversary, the enemy, the capital E enemy, sit down at my table, interject thoughts into the narrative of this whole situation. And not only had I let him sit there, I was in a conversation with him, and I just saw it as clear as a bell. I am in a conversation with my adversary who wants to destroy me. And it is time right here and right now to take authority over my table and to declare, I'm not going to give the enemy a seat at my table. I'm not going to entertain his thoughts. I'm not going to sit here and converse with him. I'm not giving him a place. And that was the beginning of it all. And that text changed my life. It changed my life that day. And I'm honestly in a place where almost every week I still think about those 9 words in some situation I'm in where anxiety is starting to creep in, or fear is creeping in, or anger is creeping in, or resentment. And I just have to remind myself again, this is a lie from the enemy, and I'm not going to give the enemy a seat at my table. And so I fleshed it out into a message. That message started resonating with people. Literally, I've given that message around the world on just about every continent, and just seeing the way that it has done for other people, what it does for me. And somewhere at the beginning of 2020, we started working on the book, and honestly, I don't think it could have come at a better time, because I think a lot of us in the last year have thought we might be losing our minds, and God is saying, no, it's time to win back the battle of your mind.
Now, Louie, for you, was it hard to become so transparent and share the fallacies that we have in our own personal being, especially being a pastor and a leader? Was that ever a concern for you?
Of course it was. I mean, you think that, I'm a man, and so I don't want to show any weaknesses. That's a typical guy. And I'd already written a book called Goliath Must Fall, and talked a lot about my own battle with depression and anxiety even before this don't give the enemy a seat at your table season of life. And when I started talking about it, I started realizing how much it was helping people. because we all are struggling. And I think for too long, people have thought the guys on the stage or the platform aren't struggling as much as the people in the pews. But the reality is we're all struggling, and we all have flaws. And the more we can be transparent with each other, open with each other, it breeds hope for all of us. And I did an event yesterday around this book with Craig Groeschel, who you would know well, and leads the largest church in the world, anchored right there in Edmond. Jenny Allen, who just hosted several million ladies at IF Gathering online, and myself, and all three of us. Jenny Allen talked about an 18-month season of life where she doubted her faith. Craig talked about a season in 2019 where he had to go seek a counselor. And I talked about being in a hole that I never thought I was coming out again, of depression and anxiety. And that's three people who are, leading stuff. So I just want people to know, A, you're not alone. There aren't any perfect people who found the secret and don't struggle with their thoughts or lies from the enemy. And there's hope, and it's not an instantaneous thing. And I don't love necessarily, going out and talking to thousands of people and telling them I was broken down in a hole of depression and anxiety, that I was weak and that it took a process, and that it's actually still a part of my story somewhat, not in a major way, but in a minor way. But it's real, and God is able and God is greater. And I think that the way that I can say that with confidence is I'm standing here by the grace of God. I can tell you, whatever you're going through, God is greater. And it's not because I read that in a book, even though it's, true, even if I didn't say it, because it's in God's book. But I can tell you that because I've experienced it and lived it. And I think we hopefully are at a place where mental illness, particularly suicide, which is so devastating right now among people of all ages, but especially young people. We need to talk about these things in church and not be ashamed, try to the rug, and not give people simple Band-Aid answers. You just need more faith, or just trust God, or just memorize a verse of Scripture. We've got to, A, destigmatize mental illness, and B, we've got to understand it's a big deal. But we've also got to keep preaching the message of hope, which is God is greater.
And again, the book, Don't Give the Enemy a Seat at Your Table. Louie, I want to make sure and let folks know where they can find more info, not only about this one, but all of your other works and your social media as well.
Yeah, social media is Louie Giglio, and that's a good place to find me on Instagram. The website's louiegiglio.com. And fortunately, the book's available everywhere. I'm not sure if your Hobby Lobby neighbors have it in just yet, but I know Mardell carries it. Christian Book, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Passion Resources. Anywhere books are sold, it's available. Coming out on May 11th, but I know I ordered one from Christian Book, and they already sent it to me. So apparently it's in the works and in the pipeline right now.
There you go. Well, Louie Giglio, it has truly been an honor to have the chance to visit with you. And I hope you have a great weekend, and hopefully we can catch up again real soon.
I look forward to it, and thanks for all you do every day to encourage people. I'm so grateful for you. Pray God's blessing on you. Have an amazing weekend. We'll talk again soon.
Thanks again for joining us on this 76th episode here in Season 2 of Good Questions with Cameron Dole. If you ever have a question, a comment, anything else you'd like to know, you can hit me up on the contact page at gqwithcam.com. You can also find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok at GQWithCam. If you'd like to help out in the funding for this podcast, visit the merch store. We've got hoodies, t-shirts, stickers, mugs, tumblers, and so much more. That's gqwithcam.com/shop. If you have a special guest idea, you can email me, gqwithcam@gmail.com. Again, thanks to our friends at Smiley's Breezy Vapes for helping sponsor today's podcast. Check them out, and if you have a question, give them a call or text 580-471-VAPE. And thanks again to our good friend Brandon Allen for coming up with our theme music. We're going to let him play us out and hope you guys have a great weekend.